So when I talk about resistance and I come to the word resistance, I think about pushback. Resistance is push back. And so for me, resistance is healthy because when we are mistreated, we resist. If you think about our smallish child, when they don't like something, they can't even articulate what it is they do not like. But resistance is visceral. It is embodied because there's a part of you that's saying, this is not what I like. This is being mistreated. So I first like to think about resistance as a healthy act because it is pushback from mistreatment. And so I guess I want us to start there and say that as a practitioner, I see resistance as a sign of survival and mental wellness. So I don't necessarily think that it is a maladaptive system, which is what I've been taught in our education. You know, that resistance is something that we need to see, look at, and work around and try and fix because something is deficient or wrong with the client. So when we're talking about people who are historically marginalized, we are talking about, and so this talk is specifically about resistance as failed colonization. And I want us as practitioners to think about what happens in our minds and our bodies when we interpret something as resistance. In our case consultation, when we say, oh, this is what's going on here, and we are trying to put this case formulation together, when we interpret something as resistance, what do we interpret it as? And I've been taught to interpret it as something problematic. But when working with marginalized populations, and that's specifically what I am speaking about today, I want to ask us, instead of looking out, to look within.
I'm sitting with that because I've recently started reading a book called The Four Pivots by Sean. I don't know if it's Ginwright or Ginwright. Please forgive me, Sean. And talks about lens, but then he also talks about mirror. Yeah. Lens is how you see the world, but then mirror is you looking inward, you looking at you, making a U-turn. And as you mentioned that, and how we interpret resistance, and resistance has pushback. As you said, resistance has pushback. My mind said, it's pushback, but maybe in a way it's also push forward, meaning it's pushing the therapist forward to do something different, to figure out, what am I doing here that's not working for my client? What is my client, what useful information is my client giving me about my process? What useful information is my client giving me about their experience in the world? And how could I use that to adjust my practice